Steve gives top vibes. Steve. I love that. All right, here we go. What is going on? You are watching and listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the live edition. This is episode 409, the OG Sex Positive podcast. I'm your host, Stevie, alongside Kodi Maurice Doggette, wearing a Butch t-shirt. How you doing, Kodi?
Woof. Hello, darling. How are you? I'm wonderful, thank you. You know, Butch is a state of mind. So yeah, I'm here and having a great time. How are you, babes?
Fabulous on this hump day. We are live on the Vocal platform in front of a live virtual audience. So all night long, we want you guys to weigh in and we will respond to topics or your questions, so on and so forth. We want to thank you. We are here every Wednesday night. This show gets repackaged, of course, on Thursday. We are the OG Sex Positive podcast on LGBT sexuality. So if you like us, go ahead and like us and give us a good review on Apple Podcasts. It will only spread the word on the good work that we are doing, and we thank you for that. Okay, well, I didn't realize this, Kodi, but October is LGBT History Month. So happy LGBT History Month. Very important right now at this time, I think, because we're going to talk about some other stories. We all know what's going on in the country about restricting books that have to do with our LGBT awareness in schools. And I couldn't think of a better time. I didn't get much LGBT history at all growing up. And so what a great time to celebrate. And, you know, if you go on to the website, lgbthistorymonth.com, I'll post this on TAGSPodcast.com. You'll get an introspective on who they're celebrating this particular year. One of the people they had on there that caught my attention that I want to shout out to is none other than actress, comedian, and singer Lea DeLaria. She's one of my favorite people of all time. You know, you might all know her from Orange is the New Black, but she is an American comedian, actress, and jazz singer. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a second. But DeLaria is credited with being the first openly gay comic to appear on American television with her 1993 appearance on the Arsenio Hall Show.
Oh, wow.
Yes, which I love.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
I know. And she's just one of my favorite people. I've met her twice. One, she has a jazz club in P-Town, Provincetown in Massachusetts. And I went there, and I'll never forget, I was scouting to find her club. And lo and behold, she was outside, almost not heckling, but pulling people in. What do you call that when you try and get people to come into your restaurant or bar?
Barking or something like that?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it's Lea DeLaria. I told my friend we have to go up to her. And I said, I love you so much. She said, let me give you a tour of my club. She did. Yes. She helped me buy tickets. She got me primo seats. She is an amazing jazz singer. And she puts on the zoot suit.
What?
She's got the hair thing. We loved her so much that she was performing in San Francisco around New Year's Eve a few years ago. And I went with my mom and my sister. I said, you guys are going to love her. Again, amazing. We met her afterwards. She signed an original San Francisco poster of her from the 80s when she first got her. She is legendary. She's badass. She's a self-professed dyke, as she likes to call herself. Badass dyke.
Hey, do it.
She's one of my favorite people. So get to know Lea DeLaria on this LGBT History Month. You will not be, look for her and her performances. You will love her. Kodi, do you have anybody you want to shout out that caught your attention?
Oh, yes. The lovely and wonderful Bell Hooks. She is an American author and social activist. And she's best known for her writings on race, feminism, and class. So The thing that stuck out to me on Bell Hooks is she describes herself as queer, which I really love. And she, in her own words, it's not about who you're having sex with, but about being at odds with everything around it. So that really stood out to me and it really touched me. And I just love her work so much. So everybody go look out for Bell Hooks. She's an amazing author.
Absolutely. I read her in college,
Yeah.
actually, and just loved her. So thank you for calling her out. Great people to be looking up. Okay, well, the other day we were surprised at on episode 408 with Jeremy Ross Lopez. We were talking about a show that's currently on Netflix called The Watcher, where we were surprised at the age of consent,
Hmm.
and the age of consent being 16 in New Jersey, and we were like
Yeah.
aghast.
I know, right? We were so shocked.
But lovely, thank goodness for our listeners, and a
Yes.
couple people pointed out different things. Um who was this that pointed it out? Sinfully Good, who we actually shout
Oh,
out to Sinfully Good. We are want him to come on the show soon.
yes. Hey, boo.
Actually,
Come
yeah, we have a
on.
whole new repertoire coming out in 2023. Slightly reworked show, but we're
Hmm.
excited about it, and we want him to come on the show. He said there's only 12 states where the age of consent is 18, so we're actually in the minority, which is crazy. That the age of he gave me the whole list of age of consent. There's a lot of them.
Do we have legal in our ear right now? What's going on?
We
Legal?
do. And I believe somebody else told me that one of our listeners, Maryland, is another place that the age of consent is 16, that somebody wrote into. Yes, the age of consent in Maryland is also 16. Thank you, DJ, for writing in. Dave W. Maryland is what he goes by, DJ. Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
didn't know all this,
me
so
either. I'm shocked. And I mean,
shocked.
it's good to know, but thank you. So thank you guys.
What does Daddy say?
Daddy says it's 16 in Pennsylvania as well. Wow. Okay. So I guess we're
Crazy.
not in the know when it comes to
Well,
the age
was
of
it
consent.
18 in California where I'm from? It's 18. I'm assuming here in New York it's 18. Where are you originally from again, Cody? I always get like Virginia, New
Because there's
Jersey.
so
I don't
many
know.
places. That's the
Were
it's
you
so
a war baby? Like, or were you like a military baby?
I'm a war baby,
A
yes.
military. You're not that old. Military baby.
From 1942.
I meant military.
I know what you meant. That's just funny. Yeah, my mom just was just nomadic in nature, so yeah, we moved around a lot when I was younger. I like to when I was a kid, I used to tell people that we were running from the mob or the cops or whomever, just to make up a story about why we moved so much. But that's none of that is true. We were not running from the mob, and yeah, she just liked to move around. We just love to have a new place to live in and a new experience and just experience the world. So my mom, I love her and I love that experience.
Aren't kids amazing? We our imaginations, if we could just go back to our imaginations. Okay, we lied a lot. But we lied besides that, I used to make up these crazy tales about where I was from, because I, being one of the only brown Latinos in my
Hmm.
school, there was
Okay.
Asians, but not, and whites, and then
Yes.
like very few of like me. And I created this whole thing. I was from Spain, but we had this, and
Ooh.
on and on and on, this whole story that I had imagined in my head that wasn't really true, I don't believe, and I don't think so. So somebody says, drink some more, Steve. I know, I started earlier. I've been talking to my mom. I'll get it together. Okay, let's
Oh no, you're
go.
wonderful. That was
I
hilarious.
know. So
I'm
funny.
changing
Okay.
my name to War Baby. Okay, let's go.
We got to talk really quickly about some music news that relates to our LGBTQ that I know so many of you are going to be excited about. Rihanna is rumored to have 2 new songs in the Black Panther 2 soundtrack, which is really exciting. Wakanda. Rihanna is rumored to debut 2 brand new songs in the soundtrack of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is
Mhm.
first reportedly by Hits Daily Double. This is
Ooh.
exciting, Cody, because she's also going to be performing at the Super Bowl. And in a time when everybody thought that Rihanna was not going to produce any more music, she was done with it. She's all about Fenty,
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
her fashion brand, and she has plenty of money. Nope. She's doing it right.
Yeah.
Because it's not like before. Now you got to be clever about how you put out music. If you're a superstar like Rihanna,
Mhm.
you have to. So I think this is brilliant to have 2 songs in Black Panther 2
Yeah.
Wakanda, which is going to be reinterpreted on stage at the Super Bowl in some capacity to
When is the Super Bowl?
coincide January.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
it's
Black Panther comes out in November. See, I know when Black
yeah.
Panther comes out, but I do not know when the Super Bowl is.
Okay, wow. Because you're a war baby and you missed that in growing up. That's okay. So yeah, so the thing is, I predict she's going to do the hits in the Super Bowl performance. We all
Uh-huh.
know that. Maybe some S&M if we're lucky. Of course, Umbrella is going to be raining, and it's going to be umbrellas galore, and it's going to be 3D. But with Wakanda, she can kind of immerse herself as one of kind of the characters, which is going to be Black empowerment. It's going to be a
Yes.
whole thing.
It's gonna be a
So
whole vibe.
this
I
is how
can't wait.
superstars do things these days. They culminate a myriad of pop culture and make it their own. You can't just have one thing and come out. It's not enough. As is the next bit of exciting news, who's
Yes.
also been on the Super Bowl stage. Janet Jackson is launching a world tour, and the only news we got is launching it, so it's going to be probably in 2023. It's going
Yes.
to be to her fans because she was supposed to have done a Black Diamond tour pre-pandemic. It was also
Mhm.
supposed to be an album, but she is stating that there will be brand new music in the new world tour. She will be performing in London, so it's grand. And
Yes.
lastly, it will culminate with the 25th anniversary of the Velvet Rope album. So
I'm
you're going
done.
to get a whole brand new perspective of the Velvet Rope. And it's got things like Got Till It's Gone, Together
Yep.
Again,
That album
Deeper.
was so
Yeah,
amazing.
so
We
amazing.
go deep. Yeah.
We go deep.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yes.
That album came out when I was just coming into my own as a person. When I was just coming into my like 18, 19-year old. I forget what year it was. Anyway,
Yeah.
but it was amazing. It was just so sexually affirming for me, and I really enjoyed everything. So I cannot wait for this tour. And
Oh,
Beyonce and Rihanna are both going on tour, and it is going to be an amazing time for music coming up next year. I just am so excited.
Rihanna's
So
going on tour?
yeah, Beyonce and Rihanna and Taylor Swift. But I
And
mean,
Janet
that's my
then.
girl. Yeah, so
Okay.
all four of them. So, but the
Okay.
triumvirate,
I
yes,
didn't know Rihanna was going on tour. That's
she
interesting.
is. She's going on tour.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, moving on, we have got a lot to cover in a very short amount of time, but we will
I
do
know,
our
right?
best. The Supreme Court is set to hear an LGBTQ plus rights case before the end of the year. We all know that Clarence Thomas has said he wants some of these cases for our LGBTQ rights to be litigated again. The U.S. Supreme Court has set a December 5th date to hear oral arguments in the case of a Colorado web designer who wants to refuse to create wedding websites for same sex couples. Lori Smith, owner of 303 Creative, she wants to expand her wedding business, but says serving same sex couples would violate her conservative Christian beliefs and her free speech rights. And she filed a suit in 2016 challenging Colorado's LGBTQ inclusive non discrimination law. She lost at the federal district court and appeals court levels, but the Supreme Court agreed in February to hear her case. remember, this is my own editorializing here. We
Mhm.
have a more conservative court these days.
Yes.
And this is what has been predicted that, so it's kind of interesting to see that this is the court case that's going to go up. In the past, Cody, I would have definitely said, because it also, there's another Colorado case that won,
Yeah.
where a baker in same state
Mhm.
didn't want to make a cake for a same-sex couple,
Oh, wow.
and he won the lawsuit in that one, and that was not at the Supreme Court level, but it
Mhm.
won its case. At the time when that first was going through, and many cases that were similar to this, I would have said, listen, why would you hire people that don't believe in what you're doing? In other words, I
Mhm.
wouldn't hire a baker or a wedding planner or a web designer that doesn't believe in my LGBTQ
Yeah.
status.
It doesn't support you.
That's how I stood on this matter before. But now that I see, because we're so divided these days in the States, and because Clarence Thomas said what he said on relitigating things against our LGBTQ status, like the right to marriage,
Mhm.
it's now getting too close for comfort for me. And
Yeah.
now, although it seems silly, like, why wouldn't you just hire a different web designer? Now I want to see how this is going to go, because I think, as a business owner, isn't it your right to just serve the people? Like, why open a business if you're only going to rest on your laurels and say, what if we said, oh, well, we're going to open up a bakery like Lincoln, but we're only going to serve LGBTQ people, and you have to show your gay card the door. Or we're only going to serve to bottoms, no, to tops, not to bottoms, because they can't be eating this anyway. Because you know what? What if we
Fir
were like that specific?
Yeah, I agree with you, but first of all, nobody wants anything that I'm baking at any time,
I'm a pretty
so
good damn baker
are you really?
when I'm eating sugar. Yeah, not right now, but
Not
yeah,
right
I'm a
now.
great baker.
Well, you can do the baking, and I will deny all of the bottoms, the baking goods in the front. So,
O-
okay, we got our business plan all written out. All right.
Okay.
So, like you said, we knew that something like this was coming, and this may be it. Like, and again, like you said, this may seem like a small thing, but for me, it feels like the first pebble in an avalanche. If we just let this pass by, all of our rights are in jeopardy. I Pretty soon the powers that be will just be stripping everything away. And like you said, gay marriage will probably be next, and who knows what. If this person, and I kind of use that term loosely because if they really wanted to expand their business, what would it matter if that their clients were LGBTQIA? Uh, would she say this even to people of color? Would she say this to people with disabilities? Eh, It just starts a domino effect for being able to discriminate against people. And trials like this, and the decision like Roe v. Wade, also highlight how important it is to get out there and make your voice heard. The midterms are around the corner. Please make sure you get out there and vote. So,
Yeah, I mean, and shouldn't business be business? Why are we? It's business. So,
and
in other
why you
words,
getting all up in my business?
and I granted you're going to know about this particular business, but wouldn't you, as a creative, so she's a web designer, cake maker, you're going to you're a creative person,
Yeah,
but does that mean then, if because she's a Christian, that if a Muslim person wants a particular cake, are you gonna refuse them because it doesn't align with your Christian values? So I just think when you go into business like that, you can't separate what your beliefs. I mean, just no.
you can't
It's
discriminate.
work. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
work.
Yeah,
When I was an actor, accepted roles that were, I remember doing cigarette ads, and I was not but hey, it was a gig, and I needed
that's
the
right.
money, and it was Malibu cigarettes, and I was on a
Oh.
swing with pushing. I didn't have the cigarette in my hand.
Who swings and smokes? War babies, that's who.
We did this job for Malibu back in the day. We went up to Napa one time. We went, where else? They flew us to the Bahamas. And
Oh,
all we were
girl, that's
doing was
fancy.
laughing and contorting, but we didn't have to have the cigarettes in our hands. I didn't have
Mhm.
to, at least in my
Okay.
contract, I didn't have to. The paycheck was buco bucks. So
Okay. Sign
when
me
you're
up.
just getting going, you can't. I mean, now I would have a problem doing a cigarette ad, knowing
Not me.
I couldn't today.
Call me Malibu
But
cigarettes. Okay.
at at that time, at 23, I took the job. It was a gig, and you do what you got to do.
That's
So
right.
sorry. I don't even know if they're making cigarette ads anymore. I mean, I would be surprised to wonder if they were.
They got
Oh,
that Joe Camel guy in them now.
exactly. Okay. Kevin Spacey, or are we skipping it?
Let's we got let's skip it because yeah, let's skip it.
Yes. Okay. Recently, there's a lot of LGBTQ topics that have been rarely discussed in school, a new study finds. Despite what some conservatives would claim, the vast majority of American students are exposed to teaching about LGBTQ plus issues in school. Not only is it the lack of representation unhelpful, but it's also harmful to our community and students. Additionally, significant decrease in support for LGBTQ plus students is evident. And this is a brand new study that there's literally no education on, like, we're
Mhm.
trying to celebrate LGBT History Month across the country. LGBTQ plus students experience hostility, bullying, victimization, and discrimination on a daily basis, the research found. And as a result, many avoid participating in school activities or skip school entirely. Nearly
Wow.
all LGBTQ plus students, 90%, hear the word gay used negatively at school.
Mhm.
In addition, a little more than 83% of LGBTQ plus students hear negative remarks, specifically about transgender people. And the survey found that most LGBTQ plus students who attended school uh, in person, about 83% experienced harassment or assault due to personal characteristics during the 2021-2022 academic year. Those are
Mm.
incredible findings. There's more to it.
Yeah.
I'll post it on TAGSPodcast.com. I didn't get any education growing up in school at all. I'm
Mhm.
assuming you didn't either, Kodi.
Yeah, neither did I. Everything I found out I've learned over the years, I've had to learn on my own, basically. So yeah. Continue.
Yeah,
What were you saying?
I think it just speaks to the problem that why there is more homophobia going on in the country. And if you don't have any education, if you avoid it at all costs, if you don't at least acknowledge things, this would be a great thing to acknowledge in school, LGBT History Month, and
Mhm.
do things like The View does. Hone in on one historical person that did something great for the community,
Mhm.
like we should be doing for Hispanic Heritage Month, for Black History Month,
Yes.
for all cultures, really. Just gives people an awareness. I The one thing I remember in school was learning about world religions in the 8th grade, and that just opened my mind up in so many realms. And then in
Yeah.
college, I really, instead of taking English 1A and 1B, which is what you normally take, I took Chicano Studies 1A and 1B.
Ooh,
And instead of, we read books by Chicano authors, and it sufficed for my English studies. And I learned so much about my own culture and
that's
people.
amazing.
And then in film class, I learned about Bell Hooks, like you talked about
Yes.
earlier on. And she has a lot to say about film and African American studies. And I started to delve into and curate my own, but it all sparked from that eighth grade class on world religion, on just getting a little piece. And I think that's where travel does that too.
Yeah,
The minute you get on a plane and you go somewhere that is not like your culture, is when you expand your mind. But
that's
that's
right.
when you open your mind, and the hatred and the thoughts that you might have, oh, they're different, becomes enlightening to you, and you
Yeah.
want to learn more. And so I just think if we got more of that, we wouldn't have homophobia and the things that we're talking about.
I could not agree with you more. The study on to prove that learning about LGBTQ people and hearing our stories not only allows us to feel less alone in the world, but it humanizes us to people that are not like us. So that's an amazing thing. And I feel like other marginalized communities, they have family members to look up to. Like if you were born into a Black family, and you go to school and you experience racism, you have somebody to look up to. If you're the only gay kid in your family, then you don't have that person, that older person to look up to and to get guidance from. It's really terrifying, and it just goes to show you that representation matters across the board. And it yes, and it makes you feel less alone in the world. Yeah. And
Yes. And on that note, there's a new film. I will post the trailer on TAGSPodcast.com. It's an Argentinian film where men bear all in this exploration of the line between homoeroticism and homophobia.
okay.
That is such an interesting comparison topic that I would love to dive into more,
Yeah. Same here.
because the two can converge. And this new film is called Horseplay. You want to be able to look out for it, or essentially The Agitators is Los Agitadores is essentially
Mhm.
the name of the film. It tells the story of a group of straight male friends who gather at a beautiful countryside villa to unwind over the Christmas holiday. Though, for anyone who spent any time around a large number of men, know this gathering is anything but relaxing, as they constantly rile one another in a constant game of homosocial one-upmanship. I watched. Did you happen to watch the trailer for
I
this,
watched the
Cody?
trailer, it was so good.
Oh, yeah,
It
you
was
can just
it's
tell
nerve-wracking though.
it's better than The Housewives. It's because,
I don't know about that.
well, it's kind of on a Housewives level, but
It is.
then because of that maleness
Yeah,
happening, it makes me
machismo.
nervous.
Yes, exactly.
And you don't know the women are maybe throwing a drink on somebody, which I have that in me, but the men are
Oh my
gonna
god.
I've done it,
Hey,
but
hey, it is what it is.
but the men just take it to another level. That's like fist fight, and I don't
Yeah,
know,
I
but
couldn't do that.
yeah, it's scary. But Horseplay, new film, look out for it. I'll post the trailer on tagspodcast.com. Check it out. Okay, moving on. We have so much to talk about. We've got to talk about a woman that. Do you want to talk about that one,
Yeah, let's
Cody?
talk about it. Let's go, let's go.
Okay, this is so hilarious to me. A Kentucky woman has been jailed after stabbing her cousin over borrowing a sex toy, and we believe it was a dildo. All right, a Kentucky woman who stabbed her male cousin during a dispute over a borrowed sex toy has been sentenced to 12 months behind bars, and this is according to court records. Crystal Denham, who's 34, was sentenced yesterday in circuit court in connection with last year's assault of Michael Barton, who police identified as Denham's cousin and neighbor in Corbin, a city 85 miles south of Lexington. Police were dispatched to Denham's home after she called 911 to report that she had stabbed Barton. When a
What?
cop arrived at the residence, Mrs. Denham was sweeping the porch according to a court citation. Just like you would normally do. Denham seen
Gotta get all this
above.
blood off the porch. Wait a minute, sis.
Denham had come to her home and they had gotten into an argument over a sex toy. So her and her cousin. Denham had borrowed the adult item and Barton wanted it back. The sex toy is not further described in court records, but the site that I got it from assumes that it's definitely a dildo, but could be a butt plug, a vibrator, or something kinkier. I'm going with the dildo.
Hey, I mean, if it's anything worth fighting over, it's the deed. Trust me.
The reason why this story got my attention immediately was because I have a friend that his life is changing dramatically for the better in many ways. I'm not even going to go into it, y'all. I just can't. But because his life is changing, we met up over the weekend and he gave me in a plastic bag a dildo, his sex toy.
Okay.
And I said, why? And we were going on a big hike. And I was like, why are you handing me this right now? But it was like wrapped up. And he said,
he took it out the bag and waved it around. Look what I have for you. Can you imagine?
First of all, it's huge. It's huge. And I said, he said, I don't have any use for this anymore. I hope, but don't worry, it's disinfected, which is the key to, but he gave it to me. It's now in my ownership. It's sitting in my room over there. He asked me the other day.
Give it to you. He bequeathed it to you. He was knighting it.
And there was a ceremony on the hilltop that we did. We had a whole, everybody clapped, and it was a beautiful moment.
I love that.
Unlike this, where they borrowed. Now, why are people, Kodi? First of all, would you use somebody else's sex toy? Or I guess the question is, what's the question? Fill my question.
The question
Take over, Kodi, because I got to pour some wine.
Would I borrow someone's sex toy? And no is the answer. The only person that I would even consider sharing a sex toy with is Joe, my boyfriend. And he wants to use my flesh jacket. He wants to use my flesh jacket. I'm like, no, I'll just get you your own. But because there's been so many.
Is this a real life story that Joe wants to use your flesh jacket and you said no?
Yes.
Why not?
I'll buy him his own. I will get him his own because that is a very intimate toy for me. That's very
I
special.
think you've been more intimate with Joe than with your flesh jack.
That's debatable.
Are you saying you have a Wow.
I used to cut. No, I'm just joking. I probably have been more intimate with Joe, but still, it's for me. I can get him his own. He doesn't want to share his what's that thing that they use, the rod that they use to clean out, and it's a shower attachment that they clean out with. He doesn't want to share that with me. So I will buy him his own flesh jack. I was going to tell you I'll tell you another story offline about what we did today. I'll
tell us.
Here we go. So how intimate we are is I went to go get a colonic today, and he was actually in the room holding my hand while the water was going up inside of me. Have you ever had a colonic before?
No. Why did you get a colonic?
Very interesting. Well, just some tummy issues sometimes, and it's good I want to make sure I'm nice and cleaned out for Halloween because they say to make sure that your stomach is nice and cleaned out. That's how you lose weight. I've been on like a soup diet. It's ridiculous, but he was actually in the room. He was like, can you imagine can you think of anybody else being in this room with you at this time and while you're having this procedure done? Because I was having a procedure done today. Yeah. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. He held my hand, he rubbed my arm hair, and it was just amazing.
I love it. You're fabulous. What was the original topic? Toys.
It was toys, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, crazy that she shouldn't have been. I don't know why. First of all, sharing a toy with your family member is creepy in and of itself.
I think they're more than cousins now,
Go to the dollar
actually.
store. I bet at the dollar store now you can find cheap toys and even adult toys. But yeah, I don't
That's
know.
some Game of Thrones stuff right there.
Yeah, that just is too
They're
creepy for
cousin
me.
sisters now. They're cousin wives now.
Exactly. Okay. Well, moving on, there is a recent Reddit thread that we had to talk about that really caught my attention. And it asked the question: has your taste in men changed as you've gotten older?
Okay.
So they wrote, has your sexuality changed as you've aged? I don't mean changing from gay to straight, but more what you find attractive. Are you attracted to the same sort of men in your 50s as you were attracted to in your 20s, for example? Have your tastes widened or become specific? My ass has. That's me adding that in. I'd be interested to hear
Lighting
about
and specific.
yeah. I really love this question.
Yeah,
And
me
just to
too.
read you a couple of responses, let me read them. As I get older, the guys I'm into are older. When I was 19, I was into 19-year-olds. And now that
Yeah.
I'm older, I'm still only into guys my own age. That's an interesting one, Cody,
Yeah.
because when I was early 2021, I befriended older guys, and
Mhm.
I was always the young one, always in gymnastics. When I started going out, I was always the younger one, and I was always like drawing in older and not super old, 15 maybe 20 years older, and I liked that. That was kind of my thing.
Yeah.
I haven't reversed it so much, although I have a new friend that I met in speed dating that you met. We can
Mhm.
say his name, Rod. That
Yeah.
we're hanging out tomorrow. We're just friends,
Oh,
but
fab.
we love Rod. He's super sweet.
Yeah, he's a sweet
He's.
guy.
I think it's important to have different age group friends. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this? And then I'll weigh in more on mine.
I think that when I was younger, I definitely had a specific type of person. Age was the least of it. Like it was I wanted to date one type of person, emo kid, very, very tortured and creative and all that.
Oh,
And now I'm dating him in real life now that I'm older. But I have and now I have my tastes are so varied. I find so many different types of guys attractive. I think that as you get older, like you were saying and talking about earlier, as far as being exposed to different cultures, when I started to travel and do things and live life, you just find the beauty in so many different types of people. And I think that has widened and made my taste in men vary. And I just can see beauty in all types of people.
and sexuality wise, if we're just speaking sexually, I've talked recently about for years, I always thought of myself as the bottom. I
Mhm.
participated as a bottom. I've gone to great depths to explore my BDSM. I went for the Mr. New York Eagle contest and really dived into the BDSM culture. In that time period, I had gotten into fisting, but by actual guys that knew what they were doing and
Yeah.
gotten fisted and really dived into that. That all doesn't really make sense to me now as who I
Mhm.
am, as Stevie is today. And it's interesting how I'm going back to a name that we talked offline a minute ago. And where did
Yeah.
that name come from? It was not to bore you all, but just it was an earlier name that was used, referred to me when I was much younger. And it's now coming full circle. Now I would maybe explore the fisting thing, maybe, but it's something that I did, and the BDSM culture is something that if you knew me, Cody. I was
Yeah.
hyper into the leather scene. I am
Yes.
no longer into it. It doesn't mean that I can't pull up a leather vest, a harness at any point in time, but it's not who I am now. And
Yeah.
in fact, I don't even go out as much as I used to anymore. But I'm actually exploring, as you've heard in previous episodes, being a top
Yeah.
recently. And doesn't mean I still don't want to be a bottom, but that is dramatically shifting for me. Age and who I'm attracted to is all over the place. It's
Mhm.
young people, it's people my age, it's, I would say my age and younger, not older than me,
Mhm.
because I'm very youthful right now.
Yeah.
And in my age, I just feel very youthful. And I tend to find people that are like older than me, not co aligned with me, but that's just
Oh,
where I'm
really?
at.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I tend to be more aligned with a little bit on the skewing younger.
Yeah.
So what about you
I can see that.
sexually, Cody?
So I was thinking about it, and I was listening while you were talking, but it really made me think about how I was previously, because I feel like I was more versatile when I was younger, and I think it varies. It doesn't vary as I age. It varies per uh, depending upon my partner, because in one my previous relationship with my other long-term boyfriend, I was primarily the bottom. And then after we broke up, I became strictly a versatile top. Okay, I was I was still a bottom. No, I was primarily a top, and I have been primarily a top, and I mostly look for bottoms, but there have been times when I have gotten that itch to bottom a little bit. So I think
We
it
just
really
got a colonic, so I think now more than ever, you're ready than ever before to
and
re-emerge.
and I told Joe, I was like, you need to get up and eat this ass right now because
It's
it's clean as
ready.
a whistle right now. So
I
you hear that whistle right there?
mean,
That was my
yeah.
butthole. That wasn't even my lips right there. So
It's just
yeah.
interesting, yeah, how your sexuality can change throughout the time. We've been talking a lot about porn on a recent episode on how you consume porn. And for a while there, I was consuming a lot. I don't not consuming so much lately, but I'm referencing when I do jack off some
Mhm.
of the last people that I had sex with, which is
Oh.
harkening back to earlier days when I used to fantasize about people that either I wanted to be with or I had been with. And it was that versus having only porn to get me off. And so it's just very cyclical. And when you do
Yeah.
your own timeline of your own sexuality on how it's kind of interesting to kind of do a whole spectrum on where you are at throughout the
Yeah.
years and
To
then
take
maybe look
stock.
at it, take
Yeah.
stock in it, and realize is this where I like where I'm at right now? Maybe do we want to shift things? Or I have always been a chameleon and changed throughout. I mean, anybody in my life can testify that it's never the same I'm always shifting.
Yes.
And I like that. That's one thing I love about myself.
I agree. That's one thing I love about you too. Do you think that I had a question for you? Oh man, I lost it. So I'm gonna go into Daddy's comment right now. So Daddy says, I grew up in a small 1,500 residence town that was very white, and being one of the only mixed race kids played a role in who I was attracted. It wasn't until I went off to college that my taste changed when I met a more diverse group of people, and that's exactly my
Wow.
experience. Yeah, because when I was living in Kansas, that was who I was inundated by, and I all I could see were a bunch of corn-fed white guys, and I mean, I that was my bread and butter back in the day. But then when I moved to Virginia, I got exposed to more people of color, and it just broadened my horizons, we should say.
Many of us people
Mhm.
POCs can testify to what you just said, Daddy, in that I also grew up in a very, like I was telling earlier, I don't know if it was on the show or not, but there was either white people, some Asian, and that was it. And so tends to be what you are drawn to at the time. Also, if I was looking at porn when I was growing up, or magazines is what I was first introduced to, Honcho and all these
Yeah.
magazines.
But
But many of the early magazines featured only white guys,
yeah,
and that was
predominantly.
what I was attracted to. And it took later on in life, college and experience and travel, all the things that we've talked about on the show today, that really expanded my mind to really see representation and people that look like me, and I've changed who I've been attracted to. And it's been a really interesting process. I've gone through the whole spectrum of what I've been interested in. And now at 51, I can kind of just sit back and be like, who's this person now? Because I know cultures now.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to see who I'm attracted to now. We got another comment too by Xavier, who's watching us live on a Wednesday night, who says, for sure, I'm in my 30s and more interested in older guys now. Love that. And I would attest to the same thing. When I was younger too, I was older. That's Were you, Kodi, when you were in your younger years, attracted to older, like Xavier said?
I was attracted to when I was in my when I first came out, rarely I was attracted to older guys. I was more attracted to guys that were my age, like, and just in college with me and things of that nature. That's when I was coming out, and we would go to the clubs and just be silly and young together, and it was so much fun. So yeah, mainly it was younger guys. But as I got into my
Younger or your
30s,
age?
uh yeah, my age, yes.
Yeah,
So
me
18,
too.
19. Yeah.
Yeah, I was too. And there's something to be said about the camaraderie that you have with you're both coming out. I had
Yeah.
that same experience. You're excited, you're going to the new spaces. There is something to be said about somebody that's older than you, because
Mhm.
they can teach you those things, particularly sexually. Sometimes it can go awry though as
Yeah.
well, which I've had those experiences too, where people preying on me.
Yep. You
not
don't wanna get
this
taken
not
advantage
this
of.
episode, don't want to get into all that, but just you have to be careful when you do meet somebody that really is kind of taking you under your wing,
Mhm.
both from a LGBTQ status, and then on top of that a sexual adventure way. That can be exciting as well. What are else people saying?
James is saying that he grew up in a small farming town in Kansas. He never saw anyone of color. He had one friend who was Mexican and the rest were white. So it
Wow.
seems to be a, a through line that everybody is having, that a lot of people are saying the same thing. And he says he thinks that that's what made him want to be around others who are different than him. He just had a very whitewashed life.
Got it.
And Daddy says he is white, Cuban, and Jewish, so there was definitely no one like him in his school or town.
White, Cuban, and Jewish. Worth stating. I love that.
Bryce,
Nice.
on the other hand, says he loved every race growing up. No one wanted him because he was black, and I definitely can uh, 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 I can empathize with that because I went through the same thing pretty much because I felt like nobody really wanted to check for me because I was a black man. So yeah.
Really?
Yes, I went through a lot back in the day when I was younger. I feel like it really because like you said, in Honcho, in all of the magazines that were out, it was predominantly white men, and that is who was held as the gold standard as far as the gay community was concerned. So it really did a number on my self-esteem and my self-worth. So yeah, but I've done a lot of work, so
That's the thing. I mean, so many, that's when, we talked about this before in the show, where there
Mhm,
was an article that I can't remember what article I'm referencing right now, but essentially I think about it all the time and I should have
mhm.
probably kept it, but it had to do with the fact that us, as I'm just going to talk for gay men in general,
Yeah.
gay men, LGBT for sure, but gay men in particular, I'm going to speak for myself, are a relatively young community where
Yes.
we don't, where many of us, for so many, up until more recently, have had to deny and who we really are. No
Mhm.
examples. And when you factor that into a historical base, there we are a very immature, I don't want to use the word race, but community of
Yes.
people,
Mhm.
that when you factor that in, it's no wonder that we come out later in life.
Yes.
We are having second wins at 40 and 50 years old,
Yeah.
that we are a very young community that when given the chance that don't have a lot in our court, that we are essentially having to, wing it here in many ways
Yeah.
because there's not a
And
lot of examples. And so it's no wonder that psychologically we are dealing with many things. So when people say they
mhm.
come out later in life, be sensitive to them. Be
That's right.
Have compassion for those that are barely experiencing relationships, new, old, sex, new, old. These are all new things that there isn't a lot of historical basis to base it on, like our heteronorm. And I think we need to be sensitive to that. And we're realizing that more and more as we go on.
I agree, something else that kind of really helps me grapple with this is that uh, we all have to learn that lesson. All have to learn so many lessons, and we may have to learn them multiple times. So my self worth and who I am as a person and my self confidence, I might know that one day, but the very next day it could be at risk, and I have to relearn the lessons that I learned. So it just be kind to yourself also, and be kind to other people.
And hearing other
The
people's
journey. Yeah.
stories, like we'll read some right now, only helps to reinforce what you're going through or give credence to your story. But the more we can tell our stories, I think the more have more compassion towards each other, I think. Correct?
Amen. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. All right.
What are people saying? I see some comments here.
James says, "Oh, Bryce, I'm so sorry to you had to live that. I was taught to keep away from anyone of color, and it pains me that I was taught that. I don't want kids because of how I was raised. I go out of that town and now live in Chicago." Oh, he got out of that town and now he lives in Chicago. So he's sending you love. Thank you, James. That's so beautiful. And Daddy says, "I unfortunately didn't get to come out. My uncle outed me to my parents when he was 18."
Hmm.
Wow.
There you go. So we our story, that's my whole point, is that many of our LGBT stories are ripped from normal, what you would quote unquote, I'm using air quotes, listeners,
Mhm.
of a normal storyline of development, irrespective of sexuality.
Yes.
And so when you don't have that, we've got to make it up in pieces as we go. And we're seeing those fragments layered in our recent history. And it's just interesting to me that
Yeah.
I would love to keep tapping into.
I would love that too. And it really honestly, and this is gonna be my final word. Like I'm gonna stop talking after this. But it really it dawned on me that a lot of our elders were lost back in during the AIDS epidemic. So that's another reason that we don't have people to look up to, and that's why the gay community is probably at a place where you described earlier. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll continue this conversation because I think we just tapped into it.
Oh,
It's
yeah, we,
we've
like,
tapped
scratched the surface.
We scratched the surface. We've talked about it before. I will continue to. James Hart says, I'm so happy we all get to listen to this podcast and I get to hear all this. Sending love to everyone here. Come back again and share your stories. Thank you, James. We love
Oh,
you. You're one of
beautiful.
our favorite people in Chicago that has been supporting us since our clubhouse days as well. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
yeah.
We're live every week here, Wednesday nights on Vocal Platform. Before we get to our favorite segment, one thing that people are warning is for the love of gay Christmas. 'Cause the gays love their Halloween. Not me. I'm an anomaly. But for the love of gay
I
Christmas,
had a whole procedure.
okay. Do not be Jeffrey Dahmer for Halloween. Just don't
Yes.
be Jeffrey Dahmer. The families of Dahmer victims are still alive and they want to celebrate Halloween too. And let me just say this, Kodi. I watched the entire series, the Ryan
Mhm.
Murphy produced. I was sad to learn that they didn't tell the victims' families of it. But
Oh,
my
wow.
response to it was, I don't know that every production needs to then go to every victim over the
Mhm.
years. My whole response that I told you offline was it was a well produced show. There may have been 23 other Dahmer series out there in the
Uh-huh.
past. I didn't watch them. I didn't know much about it. It took Ryan Murphy to produce this one because I'm a fan of much of his work and
Yes.
to watch it and for me to learn about Dahmer, but it wasn't really all about Dahmer. The focus was about the victims.
Mhm.
So this is why I cried on every episode because it was
Oh,
so
wow.
tragic for the victims and they gave a voice to those people. So I think they did a great job by this
Okay.
last Netflix series. I still think do not go dressed up. I had a friend that told me he wanted to go to his company party, which they had to dress up, and he was going to be Dahmer because he was kind of obsessed with the whole series. And his boss said, absolutely not. You cannot. And I
Smart
thought,
boss.
and I thought it was a smart boss too. So yeah. What do
Yeah,
you
you describing it kind of won me over. I understand both sides of the conversation going on here, but both sides can agree nobody should be dressing up as Jeffrey Dahmer for Halloween.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Final word, Kodi Maurice Doggette. And lastly, our favorite segment is Thirst Trap, produced by Straight Up Gay Porn. Thirst Trap recap, where they ask this week which of these 15 gay porn stars took the best photo or video. There's a corn cob in there too. Interesting. Know how that made it. But I just had to
Oh my
jump.
god, it's Halloween. That's how.
Is that? I'm so not a Halloween person. Okay, when's Halloween over, Cody? Got a couple
Never,
weeks.
never. We're gonna watch Nightmare Before Christmas at your house.
No, the interesting thing about it is I am so into the movies, and I'm gonna go watch a movie called
Oh,
Smile, which looks so
that movie
good.
looks so good.
I'm watching Mario Cantone on TCM every
I
Monday night with his creepy movie. No, I love all the movie stuff.
Okay.
So I am kind of into it. But all right, let me just say,
Go.
my pick goes to the first one picture of the 15, Jacob Acosta. Why? It doesn't hurt that he was Jacob and Harley, his boyfriend, came on our
Oh.
show that they graced our Tags Live performance. But Jacob has one of the thickest, beautiful cocks ever in my mind. And he's showing it in this picture, and I'm here for it. And he is taking a selfie in his bathroom with a crop top, which I'm not a big fan of crop tops, but he's doing it. And he's got the abs, but the dick of death. And dick of death because it's Halloween. That's what I got for you. That's
I
all I
thought
got.
beautiful. I thought I recognized that penis. I had to get on my knees to make sure though. Just
Jacob and Harley were on our show.
So my vote goes to, it's close to the end. It might even be the last one. It goes to Travis Stevens. The picture is just gorgeous. He's laying on a bed and the camera is near his leg, but the first thing in the shot is his cock. And
Oh,
it's His arms are
Travis
outstretched
Stevens, I'm there right now.
and
Oh,
his eyes are
it's
closed.
artistic.
It's so
Is
beautiful,
that real
right?
cum though? It doesn't
Come
matter if
on,
it.
I was getting to that part.
Okay.
His eyes are closed in ecstasy, and you can see why, because he is covered in cum. It's on
It's
his
a little
chest.
too strategically placed.
But it doesn't look like silly string, remember that?
I almost pulled my headset out. Oh my god.
There's even a little bit dripping from his penis, so I think it is real cum. So,
Okay.
but this picture is an absolute work of art, and it made me want to go check him out. The kids are saying Sam Ledger because of that ass. Says Daddy 234.
Sam Ledger, is that okay? Never mind. I'm just not gonna. Yeah. Go ahead. No, I don't know.
Xavier agrees with me. He wants to clean up on aisle Travis Stevens. He volunteers. And Lucas Diaz says James Hart because those tattoos. And he was my number 2. But I thought you were going to pick him, and I don't want to pick the same one as you.
I went for Tried and True, who's been a guest on our show.
Yes.
Has anyone
perfect.
seen Kodi's IG?
Oh my god! I wasn't gonna read that.
Yes, thank you very much. Perfect segue. You can always follow a thirsty Kodi, my co-host, and he might end up on our Straight Up Gay Porns list someday. Follow him at Mr. Maurice on IG. Yes, James, I agree. Or he's a life coach at KMD Coaching. You can follow us at TAGSPodcast or follow me at @Iam_Steve V.
Yeah.
Iam_Steve V. Follow us at TAGSPodcast.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out. If you're so inclined, give us a nice review. It helps the show along the way. And we really appreciate you all tuning in tonight live, as well as tuning in as always. Anyways, thank you so much.
You guys.
Yeah. In the meantime, continue having hot gay sex. Yeah.